Star Trek news is quite negative at the moment, if I'm honest. There isn't a lot of it, and when there is some, it seems to be bad news. And there's more. Welcome to the Tachyon podcast.
Our Tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.
Prodigy, the animated series, was actually some of the most Star Trek we've had out of Secret Hideout and Alex Kurtzman. We got the first season, and then halfway through actually doing the second season, Paramount Plus decided it wasn't going to pick it up. It was then saved by Netflix, who showed both seasons. I was hearing rumours that Netflix did that fully with the intention of actually paying for a third season. That was always the idea. They wouldn't have picked it up otherwise. They were hoping it would do quite well. Animation does tend to do quite well on Netflix. You only have to look on it to see. There's all sorts of different He-Man and things like this. It always seems to do quite well for them because it's relatively cheap to produce, and particularly for something like Prodigy, who had loads and loads of guest voices like Robert Picardo, Kate Mulgrew, etc., that actually it did attract adult Star Trek fans as well as some younger fans. But now it seems that, according to the people I get to speak to, and there's a couple of stories coming out as well on a couple of different websites, that Netflix aren't going to pick up a third season. And more than that, the first and second seasons won't be on Netflix for that much longer because their contract is coming to an end. Normally it's like 24 months, these things. That's coming to an end, and they have no intention of renewing it. So, Prodigy is probably going to be quietly slipping into the nothingness of space. How big a shame is this? Well, to be honest, it's a show I really liked. I actually think if you can watch it, there's a lot of episodes. There's the 20 episodes in the first season, and some of the episodes take a bit to get into, I will admit. They were quite hard work. But the finale, for one, we got to see the Enterprise E. We got to see a really very cool space battle, which was beautifully animated. Way better than anything that I've seen, for example, like The Road Home, the Babylon 5 movie. Way better animated than that. Far more. It was beautifully done. We got to see the Voyager 2, the Voyager A, I should say, which was a beautifully animated ship again, and canon. So that's what the new Voyager looks like. And I thought it was a great looking ship. I thought they really did take the essence of what the Voyager was, and they just made it better. Kate Mulgrew's character and Robert Picardo's character in it were both fantastic and beautifully done. Alright, the main characters, on the whole, were a bit irritating. But it wasn't an animation really aimed at me. It was aimed at kids. And, you could tell. It was aired on Nickelodeon. It didn't do very well. But to be honest, I don't know any kids that watch cartoons anymore. They all watch bloody YouTube. So they should have put it on YouTube. It would have done really well. But, it was probably, if I'm very honest, a badly perceived show to begin with. They have this theory over at Secret Hideout that they will just do Star Trek for everybody, and that you do different genres, but you can aim your different Star Trek shows at different demographics. This was obviously aimed directly at children. Lower Decks was aimed at the animation adult audience. It was aimed at people like me, to be honest, and it was grown-up animation. Kids can watch it, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't really aimed at kids. It was a love letter to the next generation, love letter to Voyager. You wouldn't even understand most of the jokes if you hadn't watched TNG, Voyager, etc. But Prodigy was aimed at children. It was aimed to go on Nickelodeon. I actually think that was a poor plan, and an extension of really what happened with Section 31, that they have this idea that all of us Star Trek fans are dying. We're apparently all decrepit and in one leg in the coffin, so that we need to create new Star Trek fans. And instead of just making good Star Trek, remembering that I wasn't a Trekkie before TNG came along, good Star Trek turned me into a Trekkie. Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise to a degree, made me a Trekkie. So instead of just making good Star Trek, they feel they have to make vanilla Star Trek, or a Star Trek for everybody, a Star Trek with every flavour. Like Rocky Road Star Trek and Milk Choc Chip Star Trek and Double Choc Fudge Star Trek, and why not just make good Star Trek? It seems simple to me. But no. Section 31 was made very much without any Star Trek in it. Because Michelle Yeoh's name was popular, the theory being that that would attract a new audience. It didn't. It was a terrible move that annoyed everybody. Prodigy was a cartoon aimed at children, hoping to generate a newer audience. It didn't work, and nobody watched it. It was too childish for us adults to really enjoy, even though, as I said, it was some of the most Star Trek stuff we've seen, and actually, you should give it a go if you haven't. If you are a Trekkie, if you can get past the animation and some of the annoying characters, and get past the first couple of episodes, to be fair, you would really enjoy it, and you would really enjoy the finale. But it was never going to work as a cartoon aimed at children to create new audience for Star Trek, particularly as it was so based around Voyager. And if you hadn't watched Voyager, you wouldn't understand why, for example, Janeway was so upset about Chakotay. You wouldn't have a clue what the bloody hell they were talking about unless you watched Voyager. How many kids under the age of 10 have watched Voyager? So it was just a really badly perceived idea in the first place. And to be honest, even though it was good, I actually enjoyed it, I can completely understand why it failed. And to be honest, if you go back and look at my scitrek videos when it was announced that they were doing this, I told you then that this was a bad idea, and we didn't even know how focused on Voyager this series was going to be. It was a terrible idea, and I would forgive it if it was the only terrible idea Alex Kurtzman had come up with in the last few years. But they're doing a Star Trek sitcom, or trying to, if Skydance let them. At some point, there just has to be enough is enough, right? I'm just getting wrong with the joke. But Star Trek Prodigy really is now in the long grass. Unless somebody else is going to pick it up, which I'm hearing is very, very unlikely, this will now disappear. And to be honest, it's unlikely it'll even go back onto Paramount Plus. So this is going to be the sort of show that maybe appears on, I don't know, Tubi or something in the future. It'll be available somewhere on one of these, streaming services, obscure streaming services with adverts on, but it's not going to be on one of the major ones, I don't think. And it's a shame, because it was a good show, even if it was very, very badly conceived. But guys, what do you think? How big a shame is this that we're losing Prodigy, that there will be no third season? Or actually, I'm leaning more towards it was a stupid idea to begin with. Is it? Get into the comments and tell me exactly what you think. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. It really helps us out, and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can become a member of the channel, and you get to see a lot of our videos up to 24 hours before everybody else, which can't be bad. Quite a small fee. I set it basically to the minimum. I'm trying to help. Please go check that out. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.